ever-present God, settle our minds and our hearts to hear your word this day, that all who are in this space, whether in person or online, would hear your voice and your promises. Amen. Hindsight is 20/20, right? That ever-popular cliche gives words to our inner aha moments where the meaning of the situation eventually hits us, oftentimes too late. This story is like the aha moment of all aha moments. Those of us familiar with this story probably cringe a little bit as the story is retold because we know what happens. It's Jesus. Come on, Jesus, why the disguise? After your brutal crucifixion, why test these two? At least that was my initial frustration with this passage. But then we get to experience the immense joy of the realization that Christ, God incarnate, has been with them all along. Yes, great job, guys. Okay, Jesus, maybe I get it. Cleopas and this unnamed disciple are doing what a lot of us do, chatting and trying to make sense of something big that has happened in the world. When the world is shaken, oftentimes it takes more than just one brain to process everything, and we need to lean on one another to bounce ideas, grieve, wonder, complain. You get it, I'm sure. Not only that, but what else were they going to talk about on their 7-mile walk? The weather? The Messiah has just been killed, and the clock is ticking. Where is Jesus? What about all those promises of God that we were told? Feet tired, probably hungry, grieving, and confused, Cleopas and his nameless walking buddy encounter a stranger, which we know to be Jesus incognito, as Elder Michael Hayter put it to me earlier this week. This stranger seems not have gotten the memo of like the biggest thing to happen in Jerusalem in quite a while. Understandably, a little irritable, Cleopas responds, "Seriously, dude, you really don't know what we're talking about?" After telling him what they had heard, Jesus rebukes them and then gives them several hints as to his identity. Nothing. Instead of saying, "Geez, sorry, hope you have a good evening," the two disciples invite incognito Jesus to travel along with them as the day is ending. Over their meal, bread is broken, and I can only imagine the size of these two disciples' eyes as they go, "Holy cow, wait a minute." And Jesus, poof, disappears. Maybe there was a gulp or two and some silence that comes with shock and awe before the whole, "Oh, I get it now." I wonder if they felt any other emotions besides amazement and joy. Maybe their cheeks flushed and they were a little embarrassed, or maybe they felt like a little bit of a failure for dropping the ball on this one. There's that clear 20/20 vision. I'm sure there are several instances in your life where you look back and say, "Oh, I get it. That was God. How could I not have seen that?" When we finally come to the realization that we missed something important, the experience can be quite humbling, to say the least. "God, where are you?" "I'm right here." In her book, Accidental Saints, Finding God in All the Wrong People, Reverend Nadia Boltzweber talks about a man who came to the church she was pastoring that she found kind of annoying and tried to avoid. She may have also purposefully left him off of an email chain for a church event and denied his request to marry his girlfriend in a shotgun wedding at his bedside as he was dying. When he died soon after, Nadia, feeling very guilty and unworthy, and confessing formally to one of her colleagues, presided over his final arrangements. Some time passed, and a woman who knew the man who died came up to Nadia and thanked her because the man felt so at home at her church and really admired her. Crap, Nadia thought. There it is. That encounter with God along the road that she wasn't expecting. Bread broken, eyes opened. That moment where she is reminded, okay, Jesus, I get it now. I really screwed this one up. Like Cleopas, the unnamed disciple, and Nadia, there are times where we are too preoccupied with other things or our own biases, or who knows, to see God and God's grace standing right in front of our eyes. This is just one example of those moments where we turn to our neighbor or look ourselves in the mirror and go, were not our hearts burning within us while he was talking to us on the road, while he was opening the scriptures to us? So how do we do this? How do we learn to see God in our midst along our Emmaus road? Including everyone in the life of the community is a great place to start. In this passage, one of the things the disciples do well is that they welcomed incognito Jesus to journey with them. You all do this all the time by welcoming visitors, inviting friends to Bible study, praying for one another. But how can we do this more? Do this better and more consistently? We can see God in our midst by gathering around the table to break bread with one another. You also do this quite well, whether that be an after-worship luncheon, a hot meal for the men's shelter, preparing food for an ill friend, or baking bread for Bread Sunday. But I challenge you to think about the ways you can expand this. Are there places where you do not break bread that you feel you could? Our lives are impossibly busy, I know. It may seem impossible to add something else to our schedules. But in being with one another, welcoming the stranger, breaking bread together, God's likeness is revealed. Then you will know, as your hearts are burning within you, that God is near. The good news is that God is all around you, even right now here in this place. The Spirit is moving amongst you. Gather together and break bread, giving witness to the risen Christ in your midst. See, God is here. Amen.